William Carter walked through the grand hallways of the Galactic Council station with a heavy heart. The massive space station orbited Tau Ceti, far from Earth but still considered the center of galactic politics. For 300 years, humanity had been part of this alliance of spacefaring species. For 300 years they had tried to prove themselves worthy. Today would be the last day of that effort. William adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform, the blue and gold colors of Earth standing out among the more subdued tones preferred by the older species. Next to him, Susan Morgan kept pace, her face showing none of the emotion he knew she must be feeling. "Are you certain about this, William?" Susan asked quietly. "Once we do this, there's no going back." William nodded slowly. "I've never been more certain of anything. Did you see the latest report from Rigel?" Susan's expression darkened. "Millions dead already, billions more at risk, and all because the way Council wouldn't let us send our weather control technology. Non-interference protocols," William said bitterly. "The same protocols they ignore when it suits them." They reached the massive doors of the council chamber. The guards, tall beings, with 4 arms and scaled skin, looked down at the humans with the same mild contempt William had endured for decades. The guards didn't even try to hide their feelings anymore. Why should they? Humans were newcomers, barely out of their planetary cradle by council standards. The doors swung open. Inside, the chamber stretched upward in a giant dome. 200 different species had seats arranged in concentric circles. At the center stood the speaking platform, where representatives could address the entire council. The oldest and most powerful species occupied the innermost circle. Humans were in the outer ring, alongside other developing species. William and Susan took their seats as the session began. Various matters were discussed: trade agreements, boundary disputes, research permissions. William barely listened. His mind was on the data chip in his pocket, containing information that had taken years to gather. Finally, the current matter concluded, and the council chair, Dixvrian, of the Tellurian Dominion, called for new business. William stood. "The representative from Earth wishes to address the council." A murmur spread through the chamber. Earth rarely initiated discussion. "Recognized," Dixvrian said with a dismissive flick of its tentacle-like appendage. William walked to the center platform, aware of every eye, stalk, sensory organ, and optical device focused on him. The lighting changed automatically to accommodate human skin tones, a small courtesy that did nothing to mask the council's true attitude. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," William began, his voice steady. "For 3 centuries, humanity has been part of this body. We joined with hope and optimism. We believed in the Council's stated mission of mutual advancement and protection." William paused, looking around the chamber. "Today I must inform you that Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives shouted questions. Others laughed, as if this were a joke. A few simply watched with calculating eyes. Dixvrian raised all 4 of its limbs, calling for order. When the noise subsided, it turned to William. "This is highly irregular, Representative Carter. Withdrawal requires a formal petition and a waiting period of no less than 10 standard cycles." William smiled thinly. "I'm not submitting a petition, Chair Dixvrian. I'm informing you of our decision. The withdrawal documents have already been filed with the Records Office. As for the waiting period, Section 47B of the Charter states that any member may withdraw immediately if they can demonstrate deliberate obstruction of their development." He held up the data chip. "Which I can." The chamber grew very quiet. "This chip contains 300 years of evidence. Blocked research grants, denied exploration permits, trade restrictions applied to Earth that were waived for others, and most damning," William's voice hardened, "direct interference with human development by council members." He inserted the chip into the platform reader. On the massive display screens around the chamber, documents began to appear. Meeting, minutes from closed sessions, private communications between council members, technical analyses showing deliberate technical sabotage. "The Arcturus Accord of 2267, William continued, pointing to one document. a secret agreement between 7 senior council species to ensure humans never developed past level 3 AI technology. The Proxima Interference of 2310, a coordinated effort to collapse Earth's quantum communication network to keep us dependent on council relays. More documents flashed by. More evidence. More betrayal. And now, William said, his voice rising, billions of lives on Rigel are at risk because you won't allow us to deploy weather stabilization technology. Technology that has been used by the Tellurians for over 1,000 years on their own worlds. Zekasvrian's skin changed color rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in its species. These accusations are baseless. This evidence is clearly fabricated. It is authenticated, Susan called out, standing at her seat. By the Council's own verification. Protocols. We anticipated your denial, so we processed everything through official channels before this session. William looked around the chamber. Some representatives looked shocked. Others seemed embarrassed. A few nodded subtly, as if they had always known this day would come. Humanity entered this council believing in cooperation and mutual growth, William said. Instead, we found a system designed to keep newcomers in their place, to preserve the power of those who arrived first. That ends today, at least for Earth. A representative from the inner circle, a luminous being that appeared as a hovering cloud of light, spoke next. If you leave the council, you leave its protection. You forfeit trade agreements, defense pacts, all benefits of membership. William nodded. We understand. We are prepared. You cannot possibly survive alone, another Inner Circle member said. The galaxy is dangerous beyond council space. Perhaps, William agreed. But we'd rather face those dangers as equals than live forever as second-class members. He stepped down from the platform and rejoined Susan. Together they walked toward the exit as the chamber descended into chaos behind them. In the corridor outside, Susan let out a long breath. It's done, William nodded. Send the signal to Earth. Tell them to activate everything. Susan tapped a command into her wrist communicator. Signal sent. How long do you think before they realize? Realize what we've been building all these years while they thought they were holding us back? William smiled slightly. Not long. The Neptune grid is already coming online. The hidden shipyards are opening. By the time we reach our ship, the Council will be getting reports from all over the galaxy. They walked in silence for a moment. Do you think we did the right thing? Susan asked. William thought about the evidence they had gathered. The centuries of obstruction. The lives that could have been saved if the Council had allowed humanity to reach its potential sooner. Yes, he said firmly. It was time. Let them deal with the chaos that follows. As they boarded their ship, alerts were already sounding throughout the station. On screens across the facility, reports were coming in of mysterious human vessels, appearing where none had been detected before, of defense systems activating around Earth colonies that should not have existed. The age of humanity hiding its true capabilities was over. News of humanity's departure from the Galactic Council spread across the stars with unprecedented speed. On the Council station, emergency sessions continued for days. Most species viewed the human withdrawal as a temporary tantrum. Humans were emotional creatures after all. They would realize their mistake and beg to return. Council Chair Zekasvrian addressed the gathered representatives with confident dismissal. The children will return when they realize the harshness of the galaxy beyond our protection. Until then, we continue as always. Only the Arcturus delegation raised concerns. Their representative, a tall being with silvery skin that reflected the chamber's lights, stood to speak. We have underestimated humans before. Their unique perspective has value that many here fail to recognize. This body will be diminished without them. Zekasvrian's appendages waved in a gesture of dismissal. One voice among many, barely heard for 3 centuries. The Council existed long before humans crawled from their oceans, and will exist long after their species is forgotten. Meanwhile, across human space, carefully laid plans unfolded with military precision. On the bridge of the Earth Naval Command's flagship in orbit around Mars, Commander Olivia Harper watched status reports flood her displays. Massive structures throughout the Sol system, long disguised as ordinary space habitats and mining facilities, were transforming. Hidden sections unfolded, revealing weapon systems and propulsion technology far beyond what humanity had claimed to possess. Neptune grid activation at 80%, Commander, her second-in-command reported. Defensive perimeter will be fully operational in 6 hours. Olivia nodded, her focus on the holographic display showing ships emerging from their hiding places. Some had been constructed in plain sight, their true capabilities masked by false hulls and deactivated systems. Others had been built in the shadow of gas giants or within hollowed-out asteroids. The Council still hasn't responded to our revelation, she noted. They're probably still debating whether to believe the evidence Ambassador Carter presented. Her second-in-command smiled grimly. 300 years of playing weak while building our strength. The look on their faces must have been something to see. Olivia's expression remained professional, but satisfaction glimmered in her eyes. Open a channel to Mars Command. I want to speak with Director Peterson. The screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of Alan Peterson, director of the Neptune project. Behind him, technicians worked at control stations in a vast underground facility. Commander Harper, he greeted her. Quite a day for humanity. Indeed, Director. Status report? Alan gestured to the screens behind him. The Neptune grid is deploying, as planned. When complete, we'll be able to seal off any human-controlled system from outside intrusion. Technology the Council banned 3 centuries ago, claiming it was too destabilizing for younger species to possess. Well, we're no longer bound by their restrictions, Olivia replied. Have you received any communications from our new neighbors? Yet? Alan nodded. The Proxima species sent a private message almost immediately after news broke of our withdrawal. They've been chafing under Council restrictions for centuries longer than us. They're proposing direct diplomatic ties, outside Council protocols. Interesting, Olivia mused. Forward that to Ambassador Morgan. She's overseeing our new diplomatic initiatives. In a newly revealed facility on Luna, Susan Morgan reviewed the growing list of species reaching out to humanity. Some were motivated by curiosity, others by opportunity, and a few by genuine relief that someone had finally challenged the Council's rigid hierarchy. Ambassador, we've received another request for direct talks, her aide reported. The Proxima Coalition. Their representative Karen Reynolds has already arrived in the Sol system. Susan looked up from her display. Arrange a meeting immediately. The Proximans control key transit routes. Having them as allies would be valuable. Her aide nodded and left. Susan turned back to the data flowing across her screen. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence were now scrambling to establish connections. The Council's dismissive attitude toward Earth had created the impression that humans were unimportant. That illusion was shattering rapidly. Her communicator chimed with an urgent alert. Ambassador Morgan, we have a situation developing in the Epsilon system. The Draconis trade cartel has established a blockade around our colony there. Susan frowned. The Draconis were one of the inner circle species, notorious for their monopolistic control of certain technologies. They're testing us, seeing how we'll respond without Council protection. She opened a direct channel to Commander Harper. Olivia, we have a situation. The Draconis are blockading Epsilon. Olivia's image appeared on the screen. I'm aware. We've been monitoring their movements. 16 cartel ships, positioned to cut off all traditional transit routes. Traditional routes, Susan repeated with a slight smile. But not all routes. Exactly, Olivia confirmed. Task Force 7 is already en route using the Fold space drive, technology the Council has forbidden as too dangerous for younger species. They'll arrive in Epsilon space in approximately 6 hours, well behind the Draconis defensive line. Susan considered the implications. This will be our first demonstration of capabilities we've kept hidden. Once we show our hand, the Council species will adjust their strategies. That's why we won't show everything, Olivia replied. Just enough to end the blockade and establish that humanity is not to be trifled with. Across the galaxy, In the Draconis command ship orbiting Epsilon Colony, Fleet Commander Varex addressed his captains. "The humans are alone now," the scaled being said, mandibles clicking with amusement. "They rejected Council protection, and now they will learn why no species survives long outside the fold. Their colony here has resources we need, and without Council arbitration, we take what we want." His second-in-command looked less certain. "The humans have always been unpredictable. What if they resist?" Varex laughed, a harsh sound. "With what? Their ships are primitive, their weapons barely effective against our shields. The Council has kept them leashed for centuries." A sensor officer interrupted. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the colony." Varex turned. "Explain." "Some kind of phase shift in local space. I've never seen readings like this before." Before Varex could respond, space itself seemed to fold behind his blockade line. Where empty void had existed moments before, 7 human ships now floated, their sleek designs unlike any human vessel previously seen. His communication officer reported with growing alarm. "They're hailing us, Commander. And they've somehow bypassed our encryption. The message is playing on all channels, all ships simultaneously." The voice of Task Force 7's commander filled the Draconis bridge. "This is Commander Gregory Mitchell of Earth Naval Forces. Your blockade of a human colony violates our sovereign territory. You have 1 hour to withdraw. After that, we will take action to protect our citizens." Varex snarled. "They dare threaten the Draconis? Target their ships and fire." Energy weapons lashed out from the Draconis vessels. The beams struck some kind of field around the human ships and simply vanished, absorbed without effect. Varex stared in disbelief. "Impossible." "Sir," his science officer reported, voice quavering. "Analysis suggests they're using variant C energy diffusion technology. That's classified Council technology. No species below Tier 1 should have access to it." "The science?" Officer shook his head. "No, sir, this is different, more advanced. The Council doesn't even have this version." On the human flagship, Gregory watched the Draconis ships with calm determination. "No return fire," he ordered his weapons officer. "Defensive posture only. Let them see they can't harm us." The Draconis continued firing for several minutes, achieving nothing. Finally, the attacks ceased. "They're withdrawing, Commander," Gregory's tactical officer reported. "All ships are moving away from the colony." Gregory nodded. "Send word to Earth. The first test is complete, and make sure the Council receives full sensor data of this encounter." The message was clear. Humanity would no longer tolerate interference, and they had teeth to back up their new independence. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, ripples had become waves. The Council chambers, once a place of rigid order, now echoed with raised voices and accusations. Several species that had previously been content with their position now questioned the hierarchical structure that had remained unchanged for millennia. At the center of the storm stood Council Chair ZX Vrian, struggling to maintain control of the proceedings. "Order. We will have order." The chair's translator boomed across the chamber, but the voices only grew louder. A representative from the Pleiades Confederation, a coalition of 7 species that had held mid-tier status for centuries, rose to speak. "The Pleiades Confederation formally announces its intention to withdraw from the Galactic Council," the representative stated. "We have observed how humanity has thrived since leaving this body. Their technological growth in just 6 months exceeds what they achieved in a century under Council restrictions." Murmurs spread throughout the chamber. This was the 4th withdrawal. "Announcement in as many weeks. The humans are destabilizing the galaxy," shouted a representative from the inner circle. "Their unchecked advancement threatens us all," the Pleiades representative replied calmly. "Perhaps it is not advancement that threatens us, but stagnation. This body has grown comfortable with power, too comfortable to adapt to changing realities. As the Council continued to fracture from within, the situation at the borders of human space grew increasingly tense. Council enforcement patrols routinely tested the boundaries of territories now claimed by Earth. On the bridge of the patrol vessel Guardian, Commander Gregory Mitchell watched the approaching Council ships with practiced calm. His vessel floated. At the edge of the Tau Ceti system, once a neutral zone, now part of what humans called the free zone. "They're scanning us again," reported his sensor officer. "More intensively this time." Gregory nodded. "Let them scan. Maintain defensive posture." 4. The Council ship circled at a distance, probing with increasingly powerful scanners. They had been testing human defenses for weeks, looking for weaknesses, trying to understand the technology that had been hidden from them for centuries. "Sir, they're charging weapons," the tactical officer announced. "Low power, but definitely active." Gregory's expression didn't change. "Initiate Phase 2 defensive protocols." Around the Guardian, space seemed to shimmer slightly as new defensive systems activated. When the Council ship fired a warning shot, the energy simply disappeared a meter from the human ship's hull. "They've increased power," the tactical officer reported. 40% of their capability." Gregory tapped his console. "Transmit the following message. Council vessel. This is Commander Gregory Mitchell. We remind you that you are firing upon a vessel in free zone space. Each escalation of your aggression will be met with a proportional defensive revelation. We recommend you cease fire and withdraw." The Council ship responded by firing all weapons at full power. The beams struck the Guardian's defensive field and vanished without effect. Gregory sighed. "Deploy countermeasure package Theta." From the Guardian, a pulse of energy spread outward, washing over the Council vessels. Immediately, their weapon systems went offline. "Message from the lead Council ship," the communications officer reported. "They're demanding to know what we did to their systems. Inform them that their weapons will reactivate once they leave free zone space," Gregory replied. "And remind them that this is merely defensive technology. We have yet to demonstrate offensive capabilities." Back on Earth, the Global Senate was in session. The Grand Chamber, with representatives from every human colony and settlement, buzzed with debate. On the main display, the planet Rigel rotated slowly, showing the regions affected by the natural disaster and the remarkable recovery now underway. Senator Patricia Wilson stood at the podium. "The Rigelian situation proves our point. Since deploying our weather control technology, mortality rates have dropped by 98%. The same technology the Council forbade us from sharing for cultural preservation reasons." Across the chamber, Senator Jason Green rose to speak. "Now other species are asking for our help. The Proxima Coalition wants access to our medical technology. The Tau Centauri want our agricultural systems. Half the galaxy is beating a path to our door." Patricia nodded gravely. "Which brings us to today's vote. How do we share these technologies without creating worse problems? Some species lack the infrastructure to properly implement advanced systems. Others have political instability that could turn helpful technology into weapons." The Senate debated long into the night. Unlike the Council, where the oldest species simply dictated terms to the younger ones, the human approach involved genuine discussion, compromise, and sometimes heated disagreement. Eventually, they reached a decision. Humanity would establish a technology exchange program. Aid would be provided based on need and readiness, not political status or age. Each technology transfer would include training, support, and ethical frameworks for its use. Meanwhile, at a neutral trading station on the edge of what had once been Council space, a secret meeting took place. William Carter, now serving as humanity's special envoy, sat across from 3 Arcturian delegates. The crystalline beings communicated through light patterns that William's translator converted to speech. "We did not wish to speak within Council boundaries," the lead Arcturian explained. "What we share now, only a few within the inner circle. No." William leaned forward. "I'm listening. The Council was not formed simply for cooperation and advancement, as the official history claims. It was created out of necessity, as a shield." "A shield against what?" William asked. The Arcturian's crystals pulsed with dark colors. "There are threats beyond the galaxy's edge, ancient species that were driven back long before any of our civilizations arose. The Council's controlled development wasn't just about maintaining power. though that became its purpose over time. Originally, it was to prevent any species from advancing in ways that might draw attention. William considered this. And you believe humanity's rapid advancement now might attract these threats? We don't know, the Arcturian admitted. The last incursion was 15,000 years ago, but certain members of the inner circle fear it. Others saw humanity's unpredictable nature as a potential asset against these ancient enemies should they return. That's why some secretly supported your development while others tried to suppress it. As William digested this information, his communication device chimed. Susan Morgan appeared on the screen, her expression serious. William, we've made contact with species beyond Council-mapped space, several of them. William raised an eyebrow. How is that possible? The Council claimed to have mapped the entire accessible galaxy. They lied, Susan replied simply. There are vast regions they deliberately kept isolated, species they quarantined because they developed along different technological lines than the Council approved. The lead Arcturian's lights flickered rapidly, their equivalent of a sigh. The Council became what it feared, controlling, isolating, preventing growth. All in the name of safety. William looked from the Arcturian to Susan's image. Who are these species? The most significant call themselves the Volari, Susan answered. They're a crystalline species, somewhat similar to the Arcturians, but their technology is built on principles we've barely begun to understand. They say they've been watching us since we left the Council. They believe we might be ready for what they call the truth. The Arcturian's lights pulsed anxiously. Be careful, human. The Council has kept secrets for reasons good and bad. Unraveling them too quickly could bring danger to us all. William stood, determination in his eyes. The Council's way was to hide from challenges. Humanity's way is to face them. Set up a meeting with these Volari. It's time we learned what's really happening in our galaxy. As the meeting concluded, William couldn't help but wonder if humanity's departure from the Council had set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy far more dramatically than anyone had anticipated. The chaos they had created might be just the beginning. 1 year after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, the galaxy had reached a tipping point. The once unified Council had split into 3 distinct factions. The Traditionalists, led by former Council Chair ZX Vrian, demanded strict sanctions against humanity until they returned to Council control. The Reformists, with the Arcturians as their strongest voice, pushed for restructuring the Council to address the concerns that had driven Earth away. And the Opportunists, a coalition of species who had always resented the Inner Circle's control, sought to use the chaos to advance their own positions. On Earth, in a secret facility beneath the North American continent, William Carter watched a demonstration of humanity's newest breakthrough. Engineers and scientists filled the sprawling complex, working on projects that had been theoretical until humanity freed itself from Council restrictions. The Artemis network is ready for full activation, said Dr. Samantha Miller, the project's lead scientist. She gestured to the holographic display showing thousands of tiny relay points scattered throughout human-controlled space. And you're certain the Council can't detect it? William asked. Samantha nodded confidently. The relays exist partially in subspace. To conventional scanners, they appear as normal space debris or background radiation. William studied the display. For centuries, the Council had maintained control of interstellar communication through their monopoly on FTL communication technology. All messages between star systems had to pass through Council relays, where they could be monitored or even blocked. Begin the activation sequence, William ordered. Samantha entered a series of commands. Throughout human space, the hidden relays powered up, creating an entirely new communication network independent of Council control. Send the test message, William said. Samantha nodded to a communications specialist. The young woman typed briefly, then looked up. Message sent, sir. Less than 3 seconds later, a confirmation appeared on the main screen. A message had been transmitted across 50 light-years instantly, without using a single Council relay. William smiled slightly. Send word to all human settlements and our allies. The Artemis network is operational. We are no longer dependent. on Council communication channels. Meanwhile, in the Rigelian system, a massive humanitarian operation was underway. The natural disaster that had first triggered humanity's departure from the Council, the disaster the Council had refused to help with, had continued to worsen. Now, a fleet of human ships orbited the planet, deploying specialized technology to stabilize the planet's atmosphere and tectonic activity. Admiral Nathan Warren stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the operation's progress on the main display. Beside him, a Rigelian representative observed with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "Your people have done in weeks what our scientists said would take decades," the Rigelian said, its translator converting the harmonics of its natural voice into human speech. Nathan nodded. The technology was designed specifically for this type of disaster. We've been developing it for years, despite Council restrictions on environmental manipulation technology. The Rigelian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, an expression of deep emotion. "Billions of my people will live because of this. The Council claimed intervention would violate the natural development of our world. The Council often uses such claims to justify inaction," Nathan replied. "Humanity believes that knowledge shared multiplies while knowledge hoarded diminishes." Alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. The tactical officer reported immediately, "Admiral, Council enforcer ships have entered the system. 12 vessels, heavy cruiser class." Nathan's expression hardened. So the traditionalists have finally decided to act directly, establish communication. On the main screen, the stern face of a Council enforcer commander appeared. The reptilian being spoke without preamble. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Council Directive 7293. Non-member species are forbidden from deploying Class 3 or higher technology within Council space. Cease all operations and prepare for boarding." Nathan responded calmly. "This is Admiral Nathan Warren of Earth. The Rigelian government requested our assistance, and we are providing humanitarian aid. This system is not under your jurisdiction." The enforcer commander's scales darkened with anger. "All systems are under Council jurisdiction. Your rogue actions threaten the stability of this sector. You have 1 standard hour to withdraw or face attack." The screen went dark. Nathan turned to his crew. "Send an emergency message through the Artemis network. Inform Earth that the Council is threatening military action against a humanitarian mission." The communications officer worked quickly. "Message sent and acknowledged, sir. Earth is implementing the Phoenix Protocol." Nathan nodded grimly. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this." 1 hour later, the Council enforcer fleet moved into attack position. Their weapons targeted the human ships providing aid to the planet below. "They're powering weapons," reported the tactical officer. Nathan remained calm. "Activate defensive systems only, no offensive measures." The Council ships fired simultaneously, a barrage of energy that should have devastated the human fleet. Instead, every beam was deflected or absorbed completely. "No damage," reported the tactical officer. "Defensive screens holding at maximum efficiency." The enforcer ships fired again with the same result. Then, suddenly, their weapon systems went offline. Confusion spread through the Council fleet as system after system failed. On Earth, Director Alan Peterson stood in the Neptune Project Control Center, overseeing the activation of humanity's most ambitious defensive system. Around him, technicians monitored a vast array of holographic displays showing the status of devices that had been secretly planted throughout human space over centuries. "Phoenix Protocol fully activated," reported his second-in-command. "The defensive perimeter is online." Alan watched as the display showed hundreds of points of light activating in sequence throughout human-controlled systems. What had appeared to be natural phenomena, unusual radiation patterns, strange gravitational anomalies, even small asteroids, suddenly revealed their true nature as components of an interconnected defensive grid. In the Rigelian system, the Council enforcer, ships found themselves unable to maneuver or fire weapons. Their communication systems could only receive, not transmit. Admiral Warren opened a channel to the lead enforcer ship. "Your vessels have been contained by defensive measures only. We have deployed no offensive weapons against you. Your life, support and basic maneuvering will remain functional. When you leave Rigelian space, your systems will return to normal. The Enforcer commander's face showed shock and fury. This technology is impossible. No species has the right to deploy such systems. We no longer recognize the Council's authority to determine what rights humanity may exercise. Nathan replied calmly. We will continue our humanitarian mission here. You are free to observe but not to interfere. As the Enforcers struggled to comprehend their defeat, William Carter received a mysterious message in his private quarters on Earth. The communication came through no known channel, bypassing even the new Artemis network. The message was simple text on his personal display. You have broken the stasis. The test begins. William frowned. Computer, identify source of this message. After a pause, the computer responded. Unable to identify. Transmission method unknown. Pattern matches no known communication protocol. William studied the message again. Run a linguistic analysis. Again the computer processed, then replied. Language is standard galactic common, but structure suggests non-organic origin. Closest match to records of precursor artifacts found in Council-restricted archives. William's eyes widened. The precursors, the mythical species said to have seeded technology throughout the galaxy before disappearing millions of years ago. The Council claimed all precursor technology had been collected and secured under their control. He opened a secure channel to Susan Morgan. Susan, I've received a message I think you should see. It may be from the precursors. Susan's image appeared. Her expression concerned. From the precursors, that's impossible. Apparently not, William replied. And it says we've started something. A test of some kind. Susan was silent for a moment. The Arcturians warned us that our actions might draw attention. Attention from beyond the galaxy's edge. William nodded slowly. We need to meet with the Valari immediately. If anyone knows what this message means, it will be them. As they spoke in deep space beyond the Council's influence, ships of unknown design began to move, awakened after millennia of silence by the changes humanity had set in motion. The true consequences of leaving the Galactic Council were only beginning to unfold. 18 months after humanity's departure, the unthinkable happened. The Galactic Council, which had governed interstellar affairs for over 12,000 years, formally dissolved. The announcement came after weeks of failed negotiations between the three factions that had formed in the wake of humanity's exit. No compromise could bridge their differences. No shared vision remained to hold them together. In its place, three new alliances formed, reshaping the political landscape of the galaxy. The Continuation Council, led by former chair Z.X. Vrian, gathered, the oldest species who sought to maintain traditional hierarchies and the systems of control they had relied on for millennia. They claimed to be the legitimate successors to the original council, but fewer than a third of former council species joined them. The Mutual Development Accord, led by humanity and their closest allies, created a partnership based on shared advancement and equal standing regardless of a species' age or technological level. This group grew rapidly, attracting species who saw the benefits of humanity's approach to technological sharing and cooperation. The Sovereign Collective formed around species who preferred isolation with minimal diplomatic engagement. They rejected both the rigid structure of the Continuation Council and the deep integration proposed by the Mutual Development Accord. On Earth, the Global Senate gathered to address these dramatic changes. The galaxy is reorganizing itself faster than anyone predicted, said Senator Patricia Wilson, now serving as Earth's diplomatic coordinator. The old order lasted for thousands of years. The new one has emerged in less than 2. William Carter, showing the gray hair and lined face of a man who had carried heavy responsibilities, nodded in agreement. And with it comes opportunity, and danger in equal measure. He activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of known space with 3 distinct color-coded regions representing the new alliances. Between them were vast areas marked as neutral or disputed territory. The galactic economy is transforming, William continued. Markets that were once controlled by council monopolies are now open to competition. Technologies that were restricted are being freely traded. It's creating both prosperity and instability. Director Eric Sanders of Earth's Technology Exchange stepped forward. We're working to manage the flow of advanced technology to prevent dangerous imbalances. Some species aren't ready for certain advances without proper infrastructure and safeguards. The Senate discussed these challenges well into the night. Despite the difficulties, a sense of optimism pervaded the chamber. Humanity had broken free from artificial restrictions and was helping reshape the galaxy into something new, something with more freedom and opportunity for all species. Meanwhile, in a secure research facility on Luna, Dr. Samantha Miller made a breakthrough that would change everything. For months, she had been studying the mysterious message received from what appeared to be the precursors. Working with linguists, mathematicians, and specialists in theoretical physics, she had slowly decoded its deeper meaning. The council was never what it claimed to be, she explained to William and Susan in a private briefing. It was established by the precursors as a form of controlled stagnation. William frowned. Controlled stagnation? That contradicts everything. The council claimed about its mission of advancement and protection. Samantha nodded. That was the facade. The reality was much different. The precursors established the council structure to limit how quickly species could advance, to prevent them from developing technologies that might draw attention. Attention from what? Susan asked. Something beyond the galaxy's edge, Samantha replied. The precursors encountered them millions of years ago. They were barely able to drive them back, and the effort nearly destroyed their civilization. Before, they vanished. They established the early council as a way to ensure no species would advance in ways that might attract these entities again. But over time, William surmised, the council forgot its original purpose and simply became about maintaining power. Exactly, Samantha confirmed. The original safeguards became excuses for control. The necessary caution transformed into permanent suppression. Susan looked troubled. And now we've broken that system. If the message is correct, we may have drawn attention that the precursors were trying to avoid. Perhaps, Samantha agreed, but there's more to the message. The precursors didn't just want to hide forever. They established a test, a way to identify species that might be ready to face these extragalactic entities if they ever returned. And humanity triggered this test by leaving the council, William said, understanding dawning. Samantha nodded. By breaking free from artificial limitations, by choosing advancement and risk over safety and stagnation, we initiated what the precursors called the awakening sequence. 3 weeks later, representatives from all 3 new alliances gathered on Luna for an unprecedented diplomatic summit. Despite their differences, all recognized that the galaxy was entering uncharted territory that affected everyone. The grand meeting hall, constructed specifically for this historic occasion, buzzed with voices speaking dozens of languages as delegates from over 100 species found their places. William Carter, now serving as Earth's senior diplomat, approached the central podium to deliver the opening address. Though he moved more slowly than in his younger days, he still commanded respect from every being in the room. Honored representatives, he began, we gather at a moment unlike any in our shared history. For thousands of years, our civilizations existed within a framework designed to limit change and preserve stability. Many of us benefited from that stability. Others suffered under its restrictions. He paused, looking around the chamber at faces, appendages, sensory clusters, and other features representing the incredible diversity of intelligent life. Humanity did not leave the council to create chaos. We left to break free from artificial limitations that no longer served any purpose except to maintain outdated power structures. The chaos we see now is not destruction but creation, the necessary disorder that precedes a new and better order. Murmurs spread through the assembly, some agreeing, others expressing doubt. We have learned that the original council was established, with a purpose few understood, to prevent development that might draw attention from beyond our galaxy. That purpose was forgotten, but the restrictions remained. William's voice grew stronger. Now we face a choice. Do we retreat back into stagnation and false safety, or do we move forward together, accepting the risks of advancement and the responsibilities that come with it? Before anyone could respond, Alarms sounded throughout the facility. Susan Morgan rushed to William's side, her expression grave. Long range. Observatories have detected something, she whispered urgently. Multiple objects approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge. Exactly what the precursors warned about. William nodded calmly, then addressed the suddenly silent assembly. It seems our decision may have already been made for us. Something approaches from beyond known space. The very entities the original council was designed to hide from. Panic began to spread among some delegates. Others called for immediate military preparations. Still others suggested returning to council restrictions to avoid further provocation. William raised his hands for silence. We don't yet know if these entities are hostile. But even if they are, hiding is no longer an option. Humanity has spent its entire history preparing for the unexpected, adapting to new challenges. That is our strength. He looked to the Valari delegation, the crystalline beings whose knowledge of the precursors exceeded all others. The precursors believed some species might be ready to face these entities rather than hide from them. They created their test to identify those species. Susan stepped forward, now standing beside William, looking at the images of the approaching unknown entities on the main display. Her expression showed not fear but determined resolve. The council feared change, she said to the assembly. Humanity embraces it. That will make all the difference. The delegates looked at each other, then back to the humans. Gradually, representatives from each alliance stood, signaling their willingness to stand together. As the summit transformed into a planning council, William realized that humanity's departure from the Galactic Council had indeed triggered chaos throughout known space. But from that chaos, something stronger was emerging. A galaxy united not by control and restriction, but by shared purpose and the courage to face the unknown together. Whatever approached from beyond the galaxy's edge would not find stagnant, divided civilizations hiding in fear. They would find a galaxy awakened, alert, and ready for whatever came next.